So, my question for everyone, and of course to our viewers at home, feel free to comment your thoughts into the group chat as well, because we would love to hear from you as we always do. So, Rise of Skywalker has just dropped on Disney Plus today. No coincidence at all. It's May the 4th. It makes perfect sense. Meaning that I don't know if it's in like a second run theater kind of thing like we have in West Boylston, but I would say its main theatrical run is over, meaning that the entire sequel trilogy has completed its theatrical run. And I want to ask, in relation to specifically the sequel trilogy, do we think it was an overall success? Obviously, it's made money. That kind of is the bottom line. I think in terms of financials, yes, Disney got what they wanted, but do we think this is going to hold up in maybe 5 to 10 years? Because if we look at the prequel trilogy, yes, that also made money, but we don't hold it in as high a regard as, say, the original trilogy.
It doesn't have the high.
Boy, is that a complicated question you're asking.
Yes, it is. So the bottom line question is, do we think the sequel trilogy was a success?
And I think the first layer of that is, personal response, personal emotional response. Like,
definitely, that matters.
Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. That's because I think that's how everyone always reacts with these sorts of things,
Right.
and for better or for worse, right?
Yeah.
Personally,
Yes, birthday boy, you have the floor.
yeah, no, I wasn't even gonna. No. Personally, I enjoyed all three films and everything else that Disney's put out. I really liked Rebels. Resistance was okay. It was more for kids. It wasn't really going to be that deep. I'm fine with that. Clone Wars series finale was today as well. And boy, that's my childhood just capped off and finally given closure in a really cool way. Not going to spoil anything. It's just too fresh to talk about today. In terms of just someone's like, I haven't watched it, but
yeah, no, we're not going to be doing too many spoilers today on.
So for the three,
but the main
the main three films, I feel that I enjoyed them. I can't help but look at how everyone has reacted, and I'm bummed that instead of everyone everyone was excited after Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Then
as they should have, absolutely, no
yeah,
question.
More Star Wars.
I had my opinions on it, but I was still excited for the future of the franchise, no question.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting more Star Wars, and I'm always appreciative of more Star Wars because I've always known that it's not always going to be perfect. I've been rewatching all three of the prequels today, and heavily reminded of that fact.
Of how far you can get from perfect.
But that's the whole thing, right? I mean, those movies are campy as all heck. And, you can look back on that now and appreciate it in a different way. Mm-hmm. I don't know. These films also feel very different in a very different way. They feel in the most summer blockbustery way, which people always talk about the original three as being, the first blockbusters. I mean, Jaws had a hand in that too.
Definitely,
but
yeah.
At the end of the day, financially, definitely successful. Emotionally, yeah, I still enjoyed it, and I felt emotionally attached to everything that was going on. And but as a population, I think that those three films have really rocked the fan base. I think more so than the prequels ever did.
Yes,
we dealt with a lot of crap from Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and I still love those films for a lot of reasons, but I still roll my eyes at so many parts. I think it's only because of hindsight that I can appreciate them more now.
Yeah, I think honestly with social media and everyone being so in touch with each other now, as well as, the fan base being able to get together for almost any convention at any given time, I think we're all able to get more immediate feedback and reaction sooner than we were with the prequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. We saw Jar Jar Binks and we all were kind of just confused.
The popsicles and stuff didn't help.
Yeah, we were all separated and confused, but now when we see these new films, it's we can all just hit up Twitter and immediately just get the response and either share or take sides in the argument. Barney, what are your thoughts in regards to the sequel trilogy? Do you think it will be considered successful long term?
So I think that on that personal, emotional level, I enjoyed all three movies. I don't think it was a success as a trilogy. I think the presentation and the ideas were too too disparaged because of the lack of a central goal, an overarching story that should have been set. So, that puts me right in the middle, I guess, as far as and that's also where I would put those movies. Like, it's probably not very controversial to say that the best trilogy is the original. The second best is
it was lightning in a bottle, man.
And the prequel are the worst, I think.
Yeah, no, overall
that sort of so then was it a success? It was more of a success than the prequels. Was it as much of a success as the originals? I don't think so. So
it's funny you brought up an interesting point with the sequel trilogy not having as much cohesiveness, and obviously we've talked about it a number of times on the show why that wasn't there. But at least with the prequel trilogy, while each film was very isolated, I wonder if it kind of benefited from that overall vision from George Lucas of like, we're going to keep everything isolated, as opposed to the Disney regime trying to make everything be more cohesive almost.
So they made a creative choice. We want to let every director do their own thing so long as they feel it makes sense with what came before.
Absolutely.
The problem is that it didn't work in the same way because you didn't have George. So the reason George was integral, not only because of the things he contributed in his imagination, for better or for worse, I will say, like with the prequels, you knew what was going to happen at the end. You knew what was happening by the end of these movies.
And it kind of added a level of excitement to it, honestly.
No. I think that takes away stakes because I know what's going to happen to Anakin. I know what's going to happen to Obi-Wan. When he says, why do I think you're going to become the death of me? It's like...
I'm right in between the two of you on that one.
I think that makes a fair point in regards to the stakes of the characters. If so, you know what's going to happen in the end doesn't raise the stakes as much for the characters. But if they land on those stakes, like if we know we're going to hit this mark and we've got to dig in, kind of like with Endgame, like they have to defeat Thanos at some point, but they knew they needed to hit the landing on it, and they did.
Well,
in this case, I don't know if they did with the prequel trilogy. Go ahead.
The problem is that, we all kind of collectively understand where these three prequel movies were supposed to end up, even if they do feel disjointed, and I really think they do.
Yes.
Phantom Menace is this slog of like a historical documentary of like an occupation of a territory and with political agendas and all that. And 2 is this mess of a mystery with this dumb action movie tacked on the end. And 3 is actually pretty well rounded, and I enjoy quite a bit of it, even if the dialogue can be a little stilted at points. But like again, disparity, it's there. But because we already know how it's supposed to end, we don't feel confused or lost. The problem with these 3 sequels is that we don't know where they were supposed to end. They didn't hint at. So like a good story foreshadows. A good story hints at what's supposed to come. I'm sorry. Like I'm okay. I can swallow Palpatine just showing up. I can swallow all the silly stuff about that. That's fine. There's been sillier stuff I've been asked to ignore in Star Wars. But in order for it to be well-rounded, you have to hint at it properly. And that comes back to the fact that they didn't have an overarching, we want Palpatine to show up by the end and be like the actual villain by the end of it. No, it started out being like this different but similar thing. And then by the end of it, it became too similar. But yet still different. I don't know. But see, that's the thing. This is coming from someone who really enjoys all 3 films for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I try really hard to make sure people understand there are good things about it and that there are bad things about all the others too.
Sure.
But at the same time, can't ignore how people react to it. I'm bummed about it, but like I get where it's coming from. And I just hope that, now, let's talk about where the future of it's going. We got the High Republic, which looks really fascinating. They're exploring a totally uncharted part of Star Wars in either canon. That's great.
Yes.
You got Filoni, you got Favreau, and now you got Waititi directing another movie.
Yep, they just announced today.
That was a new announcement today.
Nice.
That's really exciting stuff. Those are 3 great creative directors. Like whether you may not like Waititi's style of humor, or like maybe you didn't. I don't know how can you not like The Mandalorian? I thought it was great. But anyway. I'm very optimistic about where I think they finally figured out, now that they're past this emotional baggage of Skywalker, can actually do something.
Which, if I may, did they ever need to tackle the Skywalker stuff?
I think it was expected because of the EU had done so much of what happens to the gang after.
See, I didn't think so, to be honest. I was actually a little underwhelmed personally with the concept of because 6 was such a cap on the story, even though we had 1 through 3 setting up to that point, having it be a part of a story of 6, it felt natural for me to end it on 6 rather than where we get to 7, 30 years happen and no changes, we got the First Order / Empire again. And I feel like maybe we could have started with, what is it, the High Republic?
High Republic.
High Republic. I'm a general fan. I'm not a diehard Star Wars fan.
No, yeah, that's fine.
So we know. I feel like maybe they could have tackled that first rather than attack the nostalgia of the Star Wars general fan base. I feel like it would have been nice to really start fresh, because I was expecting to start fresh when we got 7, and then we were just creating this Skywalker saga title, like when Episode 9's trailers dropped, it's the end of the series, and it's like, we got the end of the series 40 years ago. Like we didn't need to dive into the Skywalker saga. Maybe that's just me.
Did we need to dive into the origins of Vader? We didn't need to.
In regards to what, like Force Unleashed, or
in regards to the entire
I think we
prequels?
could have left the.
Oh, okay, I see.
Like I'm saying, like
we could have
we
left
all
the younglings out. Put it that way. I just want to
Master
throw this
Skywalker.
in. Crossover Lord.
One sec,
through
Jack.
his opinion in
Yes.
here. In his opinion, the sequel trilogy was okay, not horrible, but not classics.
Fair enough.
Either it hits the middle ground, which could make it forgettable, but it won't since it's Star Wars, which is
That's
Great points.
Another way of saying some of the stuff you said, Jack. I think that sort of covers it.
Yeah,
And
I
he
agree.
also said, a part of me fears that Waititi might get fired from that project, like Phil Lord and Chris Miller with Solo.
That's honestly how I felt too. But I think because
That's an
Waititi's
interesting
already
point.
shown a lot of great chops on Mandalorian. Plus, I mean, he's on fire right now. That name carries a lot of weight.
Oh yeah.
Well,
So-
hey, being a part of the Marvel brand with Thor Ragnarok, look what he did to reinvigorate that whole franchise.
Yep.
Did you guys see Jojo Rabbit?
I did.
Yes.
Incredible film.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that Taika Waititi was in Green Lantern? He was Hal
Yeah.
Jordan's best friend? I just found out about that.
Look at this cookie for a second.
The fact that
Not
he
know
came
that.
away unscathed from
Hey,
that.
Alien from space is here.
Yay!
Alien guy from space.
Jack, while you've been away, we built up such a pool of online nights. This feels like one big Zoom call at this point, and I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
All right. Now I think we're ready to play some games.
Hold up.
We are, but everyone has to smash that like button and subscribe if they haven't already.
I have a bombshell that I need to drop.
Oh my God! Yes.
Oh,
You
yeah, I was gonna
messaged
ask
us
you
before
about
that you
that.
needed to talk about something.
Yeah.
So.
We
because,
don't have
um,
to stop talking. We're just gonna play Lego Star Wars while we talk. So
we need to sit and marinate on this.
All
It's a
right.
very small plot hole. I'm going to admit that right away. It's not a huge bombshell,
Spoilers.
but to me, it's like just another example of how it's not as perfectly well crafted as we all like to pretend. The original 6, and that is so. I was rewatching episode 2,
Okay.
and I got to the part where Anakin, he's plagued by dreams of his mom dying. So
Yup.
he and Padme are currently on Naboo, hiding away from the assassins. Which is really just Jango and Zam.
Yup.
They killed Zam, and Jango ran away to Kamino. So there was really no threat ever.
Yep.
God, what a dumb movie. Anyway, they go to Tatooine because he's like, I got to save my mom, and they go to the Lars homestead, and who's there but C-3PO, and they don't even recognize him until he says something, and then Anakin's like, "Oh, is that you? Is that you, 3PO?" And like they have that moment because of his personality. So why the hell Owen Lars lives with this droid and Shmi and Klieg for years? Why the hell did he forget about him when he bought him off the Jawas? He should have been like, 3PO, is that you? You son of a bitch. Holy shit. Well, you're gold now? What the hell happened? Like it should have been this whole thing. But of course it wouldn't because New Hope came first, and that's not how it works. But that's what happens when you write halfway into your
Yeah.
story. You
Yeah.
create these lovely, awkward things. Sorry, it's one of those things that I never ever thought about. It doesn't make sense.
It
And
gets
it's very
more
small.
infuriating when it's George at the helm of all of these, and you're the one missing the small plot holes.
And like that's like something that like it doesn't break the movie. It doesn't break it nearly as hard as saying,
No.
where
And
should we
there's-
hide the son of the Dark Lord of the Sith? How about where his aunt and uncle lived on Tatooine? Yeah, he's been there, so that's perfectly safe.
That
yeah,
works.
He's totally fine.
No, that's totally fair. Like I think the biggest offense in a similar case with director ignoring their previous films is Bryan Singer ignoring at the end of Days of Future
hate that
Past.
guy.
Do not blame you. One bit. When he ignores, the whole Mystique not post credit scene, but the end credit scene involving Mystique at the end of Days of Future Past, they just totally glance over it in Apocalypse. And it still, sucks that that's the case, but if it was at least a different guy, it would make a little sense. Like, all right, he forgot about it. I'm willing to move on. But it was the same guy.
Yeah.
Also, to that side point, Bryan Singer was hardly on set for Apocalypse, so that would also make sense too, because as we've talked about, you suck, Bryan Singer. Moving on.
You pedophile piece of shit.
Yep. Let's
Bryan Singer is trash.
Bryan Singer is trash.
Sorry.